We now have a panel discussion on customer experience in the era of flux. Senior CIOs in this session will help you understand how you can leverage technology in creating a differentiated customer experience, which will be extremely crucial in business recovery. Over to you, Varun.
Welcome back to our next session. COVID-19 has changed the way we look at customer experience management. As all our potential consumers are working from home and leveraging digital platforms extensively, it's important for enterprises to relook at their customer experience management strategy. They need to help their consumers with their experiential interfaces in these difficult times. Be it data-driven insights or agile content over web and mobile or experience-driven commerce, CIOs will strive hard to relook at their CXM strategy. In this panel, we have with us a very interesting set of panelists who will help you understand how you can leverage technology in creating differentiated customer experience. So join me in introducing our panelists. First panelist for the day is Abonty Banerjee, who's the CDO at Tata Capital. Welcome, Abonty.
Thanks, Varun.
Our second panelist is Guru Bhat, who's the VP Omnichannel and Customer Success Platform GM India at PayPal. Welcome, Guru.
Thank you, Varun.
Our next panelist is Anand GA, who's the India CIO and AMEA Customer Experience Lead for Mondelez International. Welcome, Anand.
Thank you.
And finally, we also have Vikram Idnani, who's the Senior VP and Head IT Reliance Retail. Welcome, Vikram.
Thanks, Varun.
So, Abonty, let me start the discussion with you. So, while growth is a big challenge for most enterprises today, customer experience is becoming increasingly, something that can shape your future, because the way you would interact with customers in the past is completely changing, and we need to constantly adapt to that. So, how are you really adjusting to this new reality?
So Varun, let me start by saying that, yeah, of course, you're right. Customer experience is changing completely for most of the world. I think that what is little different about the financial industry where I work is that digital, which is the new norm now, was always quite highly used in the financial sector. So in the FS space, you would find that there is a fair amount of digital infrastructure, digital usage of payments, when people open bank accounts, when you give a loan. The usage of digital was always at a fairly high level, unlike some other industries. So to that extent, it helped this industry cope faster and better, I would say, because as we all know, in these times, what customers are really seeking is a contactless experience or a safe experience. Even if there is contact, it needs to be completely safe. And therefore, there is a deep acceleration of everything that is digital. In the FS space, I would say for NBFCs as well as for banks, the fact that they had their platforms in place helped. All of this is getting accelerated now. The adoption, the usage is getting accelerated. It is also helping us to put some things together that were maybe earlier not digitized. For instance, a large part of lending in India is also through face-to-face contact. But if you look at the last 60, 90 days, a lot of infrastructure has also been built on top of existing layers to ensure that there is a seamless and digital experience. So I think companies are coping by utilizing all the digital means that they have at their disposals and quickly building new ones. These are the things they're doing. They're also building seamless interfaces for customers to interact with, feel safe, communicating about, the ease and safety of using these mediums. So all of that is happening.
Talking a bit about the financial aspect, Guru, PayPal has been there in the industry for a long time, but with the kind of transactions that are coming in today, a lot of users would not probably be used to using digital transactions, and now they're trying it out. How does that really impact the focus on customer experience for you?
No, I think this pandemic has been quite transformational to the entire world in particular, but definitely PayPal as well. We've had a surge in interest in digital payments in the last few months. So what has happened is, as the pandemic has wreaked havoc across the world, you've had a variety of different behaviors that humans are beginning to exhibit as time has passed on. One of them is an ingrained propensity to use cash suddenly going away, because nobody wants to touch and feel anything that could potentially be tainted by contamination through the virus being on that surface, right? So cash is one of those things that suddenly people don't really want to transact with. And so for us, the last 2 quarters have been quite incredible in terms of the interest that people have had in using our products and services across the world. And some of these have been secular shifts that have gone on well past even the economies opening up in some of these countries. So for the last quarter in particular, we announced our earnings last week, and we've had on average about 250,000 people joining our platform every single day in that quarter. We added on 21.3 million customers in 3 months, and that has been the story the entire year. So when it comes to customer experience, I think for us, contactless is where it's at. We've rolled out several different products, some of them including QR code, which is actually, for folks in India, this is the way we do things. But surprisingly enough, in many other developed economies around the world, the QR code is a novelty. It's not something that people have adopted in their day-to-day lives. So we have tended to build our product experiences around contactless payments. The fact that e-commerce is here to stay is one thing, but then when people do go to stores, they don't want to touch a card, they don't want to key in their PIN, they want to be able to transact in a contactless way, and so we have done that. But on the other side, with increasing numbers of customers comes a greater propensity for customer contact, in terms of people reaching out with issues, people reaching out to solve problems that occur when you do things at such massive scale. And in a world where everybody is working from home, including our customer support agents, it has been quite a dramatic shift for us from our established channels that use voice as a medium to provide customer support and enhance the customer experience, to now suddenly also rely on advanced technology, machine intelligence, AI, ML, deep learning, with our chatbots, with intent prediction, etc., to find a way to get people to help themselves through self-service to the largest extent possible, but also deliver delight in those experiences by the infusion of machine intelligence.
I think that's an important element in any industry, especially the finance industry. Anand, when it comes to Mondelez, how did you have to really deal with this new reality, and working in more of a online world, and probably contacting your retailers in a different way?
Yeah, right. That's right, Varun. I mean, say Mondelez we make products that are in the heart or center of human connections, right? Be it our chocolates or our biscuits, or the Bonvita drinks as well. And in the lockdown situation, one of the things consumers and customers seek is the comfort of these foods or snacks. And therefore, for us during this time, a key aspect has been, how do you ensure availability, that's a key part of the experience for them as well. That the products they love, the products they give them comfort. How do you ensure that they are available? So we've been experimenting with different modes of reaching out, and in terms of whether it's order taking or delivery, contactless deliveries, chatbots, or even WhatsApp based ordering. We've seen a big spurt in also e-commerce in this time. I mean, similar to what Guru was mentioning in terms of the shift to digital. I think we've also seen a growth. However, for us, the traditional trade still remains a significant part, and the traditional trade has reacted very well or responded very well to the crisis. So for us, customer experience really is about primarily making things available, ensuring connections, multi-channel, to order, to receive material. So that's primarily been the focus, and using data to also steer our engagement with them. So that's some of the things that we're looking at. In general, overall, digital has seen a lot of acceleration in terms of a journey we've been on. We've seen greater acceleration as well.
But it would be a big challenge to deal with retailers or your traditional partners in a different way altogether, right?
Actually, the traditional trade, the retailers have been fairly resilient in a manner of speaking, how they've responded. In general, of course, there are people who also struggle, but we have been adapting our ways to engage with them, to reach out to them, be it changing our way of taking orders, changing, and we have been mapping the entire journey cycle with them, right? How we engage with retailers. So we've been looking at the touch point, and that's where technologies like AI, ML comes in, where we've been experimenting with things like chatbots or even telebots in some places to connect with them and make it easier for them to place orders and even collect deliveries at places where it's not possible to deliver for them, where they can go and collect goods. So that's where technologies are coming in to enhance the experience with retailer.
So I'll get back to specific technology aspects. Let me just take this question to Vikram as well. Vikram, we would also like to understand from you, how has Reliance Retail really transformed customer experience during this time? We've heard other panelists talk about various of their initiatives. How have you been working on improving customer experience?
Obviously, COVID has had a huge impact both on the customer side as well as on the retail side. If I look at it from a customer experience point of view, I think customers have really struggled with not getting the kind of products they want on time they want. The experience factor has been completely missing. So I'm with you on that. I think going forward, what this has kind of driven retailers to do is to ensure that the online experience has started to get, maybe not get better, but they've had to focus a lot on the online experience. Okay, what that means is right from the customer interaction on the website to the last mile delivery, making sure the right products obviously are delivered on time, etc. I think this has brought a lot of focus, and we've seen a lot of problems in last mile delivery, for example. Okay, and I think that's been the main area, if you ask me. So I think customer experience is changing now. Once retailers have got their act together, it's changing in the sense. I'll just look at it from a category point of view. If you look at it from a food perspective, the touch and feel factor is not that critical. Hence, customers have fairly adapted, and a lot of retailers have created a proper online experience for customers. I think what's happening on the fashion and lifestyle side is there's a lot of push towards omni-channel, and I think that's been the one big shift during COVID. Okay, that there are a lot of retailers, whether food, fashion, any other areas, have been pushed towards going omni-channel. So I see customer experience shifting from that point of view, more enablement for the customer, picking up, buy anywhere, receive at store, drop at store, those kinds of things. And I think a lot of use of technology coming in. So retailers trying to now leverage all possible channels to contact the customers, not just like a website or a mobile app. A lot of retailers are going into things like WhatsApp, social media, stores, etc. So a lot of use of tech on the front end, and it's just evolving. So we just have to see how experience improves, but that's the main factor, I would say.
So Abonty, let's take this discussion towards the specific technology aspect. You talked about deploying digital in a big way for a long time, so it's not new for your organization. Any specific areas you'd say that you had to invest in to make sure that the experience is a lot different in these times?
So, like I said, Varun, all aspects of financial, buying process today is in some form and manner digitized. So, let me take the very simple example of taking a loan. So today you have infrastructure to actually, do what you call know your customer, right? So you can actually do it via OTP. There is Aadhaar infrastructure basis which you can do it. You have something called e-sign which helps you sign, which is a contactless way. You have e-mandate which basically sets up your repayment when you want to repay the loan. So all of these aspects are in a way digitized. It's a question of putting it together in the form of a journey for the customer to experience it seamlessly, which is what we have done. Frankly, for us, it's not been a quantum change. It's been, increased adoption more than setup, because we had all of this in place. For instance, a large part of our purchase process was already digitized. If I come to customer service per se, all the servicing aspects, about 65% of those transactions were already happening digitally, but now we are seeing further increase. So some of the things that we had put in place, like the other panelists spoke, were around technology like bots, etc., which have now become almost mainstream technology, right? So in India, voice is also used a great deal. So we have voice bots in place, who can give out loans, who can service you. So a lot of the chat and the bot related usage has gone up. In addition, of course, people who were not using these platforms earlier have started using them more. I would say the use of machine learning has also helped us, because be it in our underwriting strategy, in our debt servicing strategy, all of these machine learning technologies are used, and I feel the future will only see an enhanced use.
That's interesting because when you talk about bots, bots have been there for a while now. But the kind of experience that we had, we would typically avoid using a chatbot and try to skip that to make sure that you get to a person to talk to. But right now, with your customer service lines completely inundated with calls, it's usually not an option. So, have you seen a drastic shift in the quality of interactions that bots can have?
Actually, Varun, bots work in largely two ways. There's an interaction piece where yes, we have seen increased usage, but I would say that people are more and more used to dealing with bots now. Even if you order Swiggy and your food doesn't come, what you're interacting with is a bot. Frankly, you don't even know it sometimes. So in their everyday lives, people are using all of these technologies, and therefore, when it comes to their finances, bank accounts, loans, servicing, all of that, they are seamlessly using it. There's also a lot of robotics use at the back end, at the operations end, right? And that is also fairly large in the financial space. So there is large scale operations which happens for transaction banking, for processing payments, for processing refunds, which is important now. So for all of these also, banks and lending organizations who are fairly up the journey of using robotics automation, this phase, the usage has been even more. So across the spectrum, this technology has been used.
Excellent. Guru, is there a similar usage of bots at PayPal as well? I mean, on the back end as well as on the front end? Because the whole idea is about improving customer experience and not give a broken experience to the customer when, you're shifting from a machine to a man or vice versa.
Absolutely, Varun. No, I mean, let me just paint a picture of the scale at which we operate, right? We're talking about roughly around 34 million transactions per day. And on any given second, and I say this very carefully, right? Every second of every single hour, every day of the year, we transact about $23,000 per second. So if you're talking about the kind of data that this machine starts churning, there's a lot of gold that you can mine from this data in terms of how you can view your customers' journeys end to end. And we've been around for 20 years, right? So we have a ton of data on our customers, which we hold sacrosanct. We don't share it with anybody else. So just to give you a sense of the kind of data, our data growth per week is around 80 terabytes. And across our different clusters, we've got 350 plus petabytes of data, which if you just stack them up on as DVD drives, one on top of the other, would be the height of about 8 Mount Everest. That's the kind of data that we are talking about, right? And so we leverage all of this. So yeah, and definitely in enhancing the customer experience in a company that is going to, our guidance is about $890 billion of total payment volume this year. We are talking about 346 million customers who are going to find a need to interact with us at some point during their customer support and customer success journeys as well. So on an average, on a base of 300 million customers, we would see roughly about 60 to 70 million contacts a year. And a lot of that, the primary channel was voice that we would service these customers. But obviously with the COVID-19 pandemic hitting us, a lot of this channel mix had to be steered towards bots, asynchronous chat, live chat, etc. Because a lot of our customer support agents who are working from home don't have the necessary infrastructure at home to be set up with voice functionality, right? Mm-hmm. So what has happened in this mix is we've had to rely on technology, and when it is money, it's a highly emotive issue for a lot of people. If your money is stuck somewhere, let's say you've transacted and you have had a dispute and you had to get a refund. With anything else, you're probably going to be okay waiting for a little while, but money is a highly emotive issue. So you're going to want that money to be refunded to you right away. And the power of human connection at that time is actually quite incredible. It's not something that we can take lightly. So a bot, while technology has gone ahead quite a bit, I think there are generational dynamics also at play here. The millennial generation is more likely to accept a chat-based interaction compared to silver tech, where the older folks in the economy are probably more likely to trust a human being on the other side of the interaction than a bot. Having said that, with conversational AI and all of that coming into play, the lines are being blurred between what you can detect as a human being versus not. Of course, there are many miles to go before we can sleep, so to speak. But in terms of just understanding conversation switching, aspects like sarcasm and humor and all of that, I think there's some unintentional humor sometimes the bots tend to insert into these conversations, but that's a topic for a different day. But I think overall, you're going to see continued investment. Even for PayPal, this is an area of focus. We have a lot of in-house technology that we deploy. Engineers are excited to work on this because this is really the bleeding edge of cutting edge tech. And as time goes on, remarkable progress is being made that truly is beginning to astound all of us in the kind of sophistication with which these bots can engage in human-like conversations. And as time goes on, I'm sure customers will also start seeing these benefits with quicker outcomes, more effective outcomes, more efficient outcomes that give them what they want quickly.
I think in my personal experience, I've seen the only way in at many of the platforms is the only way to detect you're talking to a human or a bot is the speed of the response, because the bot is instant and human will take some time to type. So, it is quite incredible the pace at which bots are evolving. Anand, with bots coming in, with a lot of data coming in through bots and other platforms, how important is it to actually extract this data to get some business insights? I mean, actually, let me reframe it. It is important, but how challenging it is getting in the current times to actually extract this data into valuable insights?
Yeah, so for us, just to cover the point on bots, for us, the use case around bots are slightly different. I mean, it's more at the starting phase. And we're experimenting with, for example, a couple of windows of opportunities are opening up in engaging with, say, retailers, etc. And we're seeing if bots do the work for us in those areas. But as you rightly touched upon, we also generate a lot of data, definitely not in the scale of what a PayPal, as Guru mentioned, or even from the finance industry. But we do generate a lot of data. And for us, the challenge has been, how do we mine the right amount of data? I think with the kind of data that's being generated, we cannot adopt a strategy of, sort of what is to call as touch and take, that you consume all the data. It's going to be difficult. So that's where I think AI ML comes in terms of assisting humans in their work. So for us, example, a salesperson going to a store, how can AI ML assist that salesperson in taking smart orders or ensuring that the right assortment is taken at different stores, and therefore personalizing that order taking and personalizing that experience at a retailer level. Similarly, at a consumer level, there's a lot of data to be mined and leveraged, be it in e-commerce or our gifting sites, where we can use data to personalize the experience. So that's an area where we are focusing a lot on. It's more about the experience rather than the technology, because as you know, as Abonty also was mentioning, a lot of these technologies have been around for some time. It's more of focusing on the human element of the experience.
Absolutely. Vikram, like Anand talked about the usage of data in retail. At Reliance also, are you looking at leveraging data to sell better? Because in the current times, we are seeing a huge pressure on sales right now. So how are you really leveraging data right now?
That's a very, very good question, because bots have been like maybe not as well understood or implemented just thus far. But step one, make sure that you are understanding your data a lot. Step two, I would say bots interacting with people, with customers, is a very important aspect. And I think a lot of retailers in the past have very quickly developed some kinds of bots that converse with customers, but had not thought the whole experience through. Okay. So I would say that bots really should be used typically where you are able to give fairly standard responses and direct a customer towards a certain area. Okay. Or a certain area, in the sense you want to direct them to information like, let's say, your promotions, your new lines, etc. So you kind of direct them towards that. But I'd say another use of bot is about using your data. If you've understood it well, make recommendations. So bots are going to evolve, or are already evolving in that space, right? For people who are understanding the data a lot better, they're using bots to now make recommendations. I would say a third area where bots are very important, but I don't think they're being used enough, is on the online channels, to be able to create interventions. So if I've understood my data and I realize my customers are dropping off at a certain point, or are maybe getting a little frustrated with an experience on the online channel, I create a bot that creates an intervention out there and guides the customer. Okay. So I think that's an area which needs to develop still and will continue to develop. I'd say that these are probably the areas where bots should be. Various things that retailers need to do, I would say. If I look at it from a technological point of view first, okay, and then I will look at it from the functional point of view. So if a retailer is going omni-channel, you now have several channels accessing the same inventory, accessing the same customers. So I would say the first step is to aggregate all of this information in one place. Okay. What that means is, let's say, moving to the cloud. If you cannot have a single data center that you can manage, and it's too expensive to do that, but I would say aggregate everything, let's say, on the cloud. Once you have that, make sure that your data is in a single place. So you have single view of that customer, or a single view of the product, which means that if one customer wants a certain type of product, both online and offline, both of them are able to see the same product, and orders are kind of managed that way. This helps your inventory optimization a lot, and is able to give customers more predictability of stock. Okay. So I would say that to me is the one single thing that that retailers need to do, maybe from within. Of course, I'm not going to touch on the employee angle, because that's a whole different discussion altogether. If I look at it from a functional point of view, I would say that customers are getting a lot more demanding, and hence from a last mile point of view, you've got to ensure that you are delivering on time, of course. So I think the last mile and being able to train people from a last mile perspective is really critical. And I'll go a step ahead there, that you've got people from stores, for example, that are delivering to customers, right? And you have people who are couriers who are delivering to customers. To ensure your brand is protected and your brand messaging is gone right, a lot of training and a lot of alignment of these staff is going to be important when you are handing over the product and your packaging and all of that. So I think last mile is a very big aspect of the experience, and that would be the way I would look at it. Maybe I'll just go share one more aspect to this, is that when you said it's broken, right, the experience, maybe a lot of retailers are not looking at the journey right from when an order is placed all the way to when it's delivered. They don't have visibility of the information. So coming to my first point, that when I said aggregate all your information, if you've aggregated it, make sure information is available at all the points across the journey, and then be able to take decisions. That would probably be the short answer to this.
So Abonty, let me shift this conversation towards basically trying to change your business outcomes using data, or maybe pivoting your business using data. We've seen a lot of finance firms also completely getting disrupted by small startups because of data. Now, as you get these insights, are you looking at pivoting in certain ways, or looking at your business in a different way?
Yes, of course. I think everyone is relooking at their business. So, at a macro level, I would say that incomes will obviously take much longer to recoup and recover, right? And therefore, there is a lot of focus on costs right now, and how you can manage your costs better, and the cost structures. There is in the finance industry, there is a sharp focus on debt management, and I suspect that's true of all industries. Digital adoption we've spoken about. So these are some of the key changes, but you're right, data plays a role in each and every one of them. Again, for the financial sector, it always has, frankly. Guru spoke about it, and you cannot overemphasize the importance of the role of data. So now it's more than ever before, right? Because now you want your decisions to be right, be it in customer acquisition, where there is only a very small creamy layer to be left, and when you want to acquire customers, you want to acquire the right customers, you want as much information about them, and data and use of digital means help you do that. Similarly, in your underwriting process, it's very, very critical. The kind of underwriting you're going to do in the next few quarters will be wholly determined by the access to your data and how much your modeling works on top of that. Similarly, in the debt management space, again, use of data becomes critical. So, I think, again, I'm saying it was always there, but now it will become more important than ever before. And I think organizations are gearing up across industries and putting their platforms in place and putting use cases in place so that, they don't lose out.
Absolutely, because you're not just fighting your existing competitors, but making sure that you don't have new competition trying to kill you soon enough. So
Absolutely,
it's extremely important. Guru, you talked about pivoting into new kind of areas, QR code, for example. Are there areas where you're learning from markets like India to innovate in other markets and make sure that similar success can be replicated?
Absolutely. I think for us, if you look at the history that we've had, Varun, we've primarily, our core markets until now have been the US, UK, Canada, Australia, Germany, some of the European markets, etc. But as we grow as a business and we look to our future, we are looking to obviously live up to our potential, right? If you look at a fintech company like PayPal, the total addressable market is potentially every single human being on the planet, because money is a fundamental aspect of the human experience. And as it digitizes, we have an opportunity to actually touch the lives of all people on the planet. Now, if that is our North Star, then a significant part of humanity is actually in the Asia region, with China and India contributing to billions of people on the planet in terms of the population, right? The proportion that we have. So, and interestingly enough, both India and China have been at the forefront of digital payment innovation compared to the rest of the world. China is probably miles ahead of any other part of the world in terms of how completely they've adopted digital payment technology in every single aspect of their experience every day. And for us, even in India, we noticed, like I mentioned, QR code is one example, but even UPI, the ease with which we've all adopted UPI as, for those of you who are, those of your listeners, the Unified Payments Interface, we know it as UPI, and everybody uses it today because with the pandemic, practically the guy selling vegetables, coming over to your house and selling vegetables to a store that is selling you something else, all of them are accepting these payments now. And for us, it's become practically something we've taken for granted, but for many other parts of the world, this is not something they take for granted because they don't even know it. So it's strange for me as an Indian when I talk to other people in the world and I say, why don't you just transfer money using this? They're like, what are you talking about? We can't do it. So it becomes more and more apparent to me that there is so much for us to learn, especially from India, from China, from the APAC region at large, on how digital payments has truly transformed living for a lot of people. And this is an opportunity for us to take learnings from here and transplant it in different parts of the world. But to just speak about one aspect, where I think Abonty made some really, really good points around data and the use of it. From my perspective, the way data helps us as a business, if you look at any company that is moving mountains of money, it is inherently about two things. One is how to grow the business and make it profitable. And the second is how to mitigate risk, which is inherent in any system that moves money. There are bad actors all around. And for us to be able to mitigate that risk by using data as well as advanced machine intelligence and new algorithms, for us to be able to manage that risk is super critical, because if you look at the sheer volume of attempts at fraud, that is at fraud being perpetrated every day, if we are not able to handle that incoming pressure and actually translate it to a super safe outcome, we wouldn't have a business to talk about. So it's not just about growing the business, it's also about protecting the business. And money is one area where security is non-negotiable. You're either super safe and secure and you have a business, or you don't if you don't. So I think security is one area where we invest a lot of our investment in terms of research to make sure that our customers on both sides, both the sellers and the buyers, stay extremely safe.
Absolutely. I think security is a fundamental aspect of any payment system, because without that, the system can't really exist, and nobody will actually have trust. Anand, when it comes to FMCG sector, what aspects do you think are fundamentally the most important? And right now, with access to so much data, are there opportunities to actually create new avenues of revenues?
Yeah, so for us, obviously at the heart of any FMCG business is growth, right? Also, we are in a market like India or even other markets in the Asia region. We are mostly growth markets, and our categories are also growth categories. So for us, growth remains a central aspect of everything we do. In terms of business models, I think it is more, how do we access more markets, right? I think a fundamental challenge in a country like India is the fragmented nature of our market and the difficulty of access. And what's been happening now with this COVID situation is that there is also a migration that has happened with people going to their rural areas or class 2, class 3 towns back home. And I think there is an opportunity there in terms of reaching out there. And how do we reach the customers in these aspects in a cost-effective way? So scaling at cost is one of the key challenges or opportunities, I would say, that we face now. And I think, again, their data comes into play, how we can actually leverage data to make the right decisions and put limited resources in the right places where we can grow our business. So that's really how we are looking at things.
So we're actually running short of time. So I'll take one last question around the table, and maybe we can just start with you, Anand. What are the biggest learnings that you've had in the past few months from this pandemic, and how would you have really dealt with the situation otherwise?
So there's been enough said, Varun, about learnings, right? I mean, almost everyone has something or the other to take away. In my mind, I think discontinuities has come up to the fore now for us in the last 3-4 months, and I think we need to learn to live with discontinuities. And discontinuities, I think, going forward will continue to be a fact of business life at least, and sharp and unprecedented ones as well, like the ones we are facing now. And how agile we are as a business is going to determine whether we grow and survive or we will perish. So agility is the heart of everything going forward. That's the way I see it.
Vikram, what would be your top learnings from this pandemic?
Very clearly, one clear lesson is that I don't think a lot of retailers had the pressure or the push from a customer on the experience factor. Because a customer could walk into a store and somehow be kind of addressed by a store staff in any manner which was not visible to to the larger management, for example, of the store. Now what's happening with the online and with obviously social media, customers have got a lot more demanding because they're not talking to anybody in person, and hence it's plain and it's a very transactional experience now. So I think one of the learnings here is to make sure that I have understood my customer journey well and made the experience simple for the customer, right? Be it on my online, whether the customer is on a mobile phone or a website, which make sure it's a simple experience. Most importantly, deliver the product on time as per the promise, and deliver a quality product. So if in the food business particularly, where products expire, that's an important aspect. So make sure that you are meeting our customer promise. And that's been a very big point in this COVID situation, where we've not got products on time. Okay. And I think that's, to me, is a big one big learning. Another important learning from an employee point of view is the importance of collaboration, right? With everyone working remotely, I think that there are some teams which have really struggled in this time. So collaboration is really key among everyone. And how do you make sure those communication channels within the internal setup is proper? That's an important learning for me. One of the biggest learnings, I would say, and the final one I would say, is about workspaces. So working out of home is a very different experience from working in a cabin with cubicles, etc. I would say that it's about time to redesign workspaces. We shouldn't be having these kinds of walls between people at offices. I just feel that the environments, when they are a lot more easy to kind of, you find a place where you're comfortable to work, you just work out there. So I think redesign of workspaces has been probably the biggest factor I would want to say out of this scenario.
So Abonty, I'll just take the same question to you also. If the situation were different, how would, if we face a similar situation, what would be your biggest learnings from the current pandemic, and how would you really want to deal with it?
So Varun, one thing I think is a learning for all of us, which we didn't speak about so far, is the work from home learning. Who knew that, all of us would be so productive on a constant work from home scenario? I think that's been a huge learning for corporate India, where many of us were still in, we have to go to work and log in at 9 o'clock. But that's going to change, I feel, because we've realized, how productive people can be even remote. The second one is around agility and flexibility, which Anand mentioned. That's huge. Flexibility in your supply chain, agility in your customer experience, that's going to be the key. And the last one, I guess, is that, health and safety will become part of marketing strategy as well, because that's going to remain for a few quarters and more, depending on how the situation spans out. So our ability to be nimble, flexible, looking at customer safety and the work from home piece.
Guru, anything you'd like to add other than agility part?
For us, one, in addition to the agility and being nimble and being able to turn on a dime, I think this has been a time when we've had a great opportunity in terms of empathizing with our customers, because one, just like our customers, all of us and our employees, all of us are also at home experiencing the same pressures and the same constraints that our customers are facing. You cannot go to a physical store. You don't want to congregate in malls and other places where you typically shop. So e-commerce has become the name of the game. And all of us, for me, I don't know when I last went to a physical store to buy anything. For the last 4 or 5 months, I've only been using e-commerce platforms to order even daily groceries, right? And that's something that even our customers are having to do. And during that experience, we learn what works and what doesn't work when it comes to payment, what delivers delight, what doesn't. And as a result, it has also informed our own prioritization process inside the company. So we've learned that in a time when resources are constrained, when the sense of urgency is very high, you have to resort to brutal prioritization to be able to deliver exactly what the customers want at that time. And that's been one of the learnings where the entire company has pivoted, even in a work from home scenario, to all align and march in the same direction, keeping the customer in mind. And that's been hugely inspirational for me, including, something like new employees joining who we haven't met in person in the workplace, being able to detect this underlying thread of customer concern in running in the company and aligning to it. So it goes to show how adaptable we are as human beings at anything that gets thrown at us. And having said all that, while we are all quite happy to note the productivity and the fact that the wheels are not coming off and things are still running smoothly, I still hope to see a day in the not too distant future when I can I can meet all my colleagues in the office, and hopefully also meet Abonty and Anand in person. And Anand, I'll have to tell you, I'm a huge fan of Mondelez products. I am very partial to Cadbury's chocolate, I must say, right from when I was a kid. Maybe much to my detriment in terms of the sugar levels I shouldn't be consuming. But I'm hoping that we'll all get together in person in the not too distant future.
So I also hope we all get together very soon and meet in person. But the important aspect is that since we are all in the same boat, so to say, right now, we all understand the customer a lot better, and that's the empathy part is kicking in, like Guru rightly pointed out, and it's helping us understand customer behavior better. And with the whole agility aspect, being nimble, we can actually respond to customer demands a lot better. So with that, I would like to thank all our panelists for joining in. Thank you so much for sharing your valuable insights, and stay tuned for more such sessions. Thank you.
Thank you, Varun.
Thank you, Varun.
Thanks, Anand.
Thanks, Guru. Thanks, Abonty. Bye.
Thank you, panelists, and thank you, Varun.